So the first thing I'd like to say is that it's ridiculously exciting to be here.
You're most welcome to be here.
This is quite the amazing place, and I've been preparing to talk to you for a long time. So I'm really looking forward to it. You said something that caught me right away when we were discussing various issues just before we started. You said you were up till 4 in the morning.
Yeah, so, actually a little more like 5 in the morning. But
okay.
We got the XAI data center or supercomputer center training from beginning installation to start of training in 19 days, which is the fastest that anyone has ever gotten a supercomputer to train.
And is that in that new building off to the side?
That's in Memphis, actually.
It's in Memphis?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's where you were?
Yeah.
I see.
Memphis, the capital of ancient Egypt.
Right. Yeah, you're bringing what?
Perhaps that's where our new God will come from.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Yeah, I wish that was funny. Yeah, okay, so I want to talk to you about alignment.
I wish that was funny.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
right.
Well, look, I mean, there are a few things we're aiming for with Grok, the XAI.
Yeah.
That's the name of the AI from XAI is called Grok.
Yeah.
And if you're familiar with the term.
I'm familiar.
So,
I want to ask you about that too.
Well, Grok just means to deeply understand something.
Yeah, but it's got that weird background. That's Stranger in a Strange Land, right? Robert Heinlein. That was a favorite book of mine. Yeah.
So to really just understand the nature of the universe, and even what questions to ask about the universe.
Yeah.
So that's our goal. I think it's a good goal.
Okay, so let me ask you some specific questions about that. So I played around a lot with large language models. I have some people on my team who built one. Actually, we built one out of my writing that I've been using to help me with my new book. So if I come across biblical passages that I can't understand, I can use that system to give me a first pass approximation, and it works quite nicely.
Yeah.
I've used Grok quite a lot too, and ChatGPT, and I use them as research assistants, and they're ChatGPT lies a lot, so you have to keep an eye on it. Well, so I've been thinking about this alignment problem, and so
alignment problem's a big deal.
I got an idea to run by you, and you tell me what you think about this. Well, so there's a golden thread of conversation that constitutes the basis for humanities education, let's say, that's run across centuries, and in principle, that concentrates on ideas that have been winnowed probably through a quasi-evolutionary process across large spans of time.
Yeah.
To get documents out of that, like the King James Bible, for example.
Sure.
And they're zeroing in on core conceptual structures that we don't even necessarily explicitly understand.
I had somewhat of an existential crisis because there just didn't seem to be any meaning in the world, no meaning to life. Mm-hmm. And so I actually try to read all the religious texts.
At that age?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was a voracious reader as a kid. So I, obviously read the Bible. I read the Quran, the Torah. The various a bit on the Hindu side. Just trying to understand all these things.
Yeah.
In fact, we don't even know what the right questions are to ask. That's where he has, this. If you've read the book, Earth is actually a giant computer to understand the answer to the question, what is the meaning of life?
Yeah.
And comes up with the answer 42.
Yeah.
And people are like, what does that mean? It says, you didn't understand the thing that's going to take a computer far more powerful than Earth. Is to understand what question to ask.
Yeah, right.
That's simply the wrong question.
So was that the key realization that the question?
Yeah, I would say that was a fundamental turning point. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's it. So that's very interesting, because one of the things that you see constantly portrayed in redemptive hero myths across the world is that the adventure is the thing, and that the search is the thing, rather than there being a final answer, as absurd as 42 might be. Right? There's no. That the conclusive answer is something like deep engagement in the process. So I'll give you an example of that. So in the Sermon on the Mount's a very detailed set of instructions.
Yeah.
So there's 3 parts to it. The first is aim at the highest thing that you can possibly conceive of and keep modifying that so your aim gets better. Okay, so that's number 1. Number two is make the presumption that other people have the same intrinsic value as you do.
Well, we have to be careful about that one.
Okay, well, let's discuss that. But it's a, what would you say? It's a recognition of the universalist value of everyone who's made in the image of God. It's something like that. If you posit the highest imaginable goal, then any step towards it that captures your attention is also deeply meaningful. And so that's an answer to what the meaning is of process, rather than say something like 42. And you said, it seems to me that you were intimating that your discovery through atoms, that the question was the thing, was key to the resolution of your existential crisis.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's part of the reason that you're motivated to say build Grok 3 and look deeper.
To understand.
Yeah.
To understand the universe.
Okay, so how old were you when you figured that? When you figured out that the question?
13 or something. But that meant consciousness had to arise.
It's implicit, at least.
From hydrogen.
Yeah. Well, see.
So if you just leave hydrogen out in the sun long enough, it starts talking to itself.
I think what I've seen your comments on this before. I think you're pointing to the same sort of thing that my friend Jonathan Pajot has been trying to elucidate, which is that there's an implicit structure of possibility. He associates this with the concept of heaven. Like there's an implicit structure of possibility that material forms are trying to flesh out. And so in some sense...
So maybe everything's conscious in some way. Maybe it's just degrees of consciousness or concentrations of consciousness.
Yeah, well, I wonder if that's associated with the Christian notion that the word is primary. Because in mythological representations, you have three fundamental elements. You have something like order, which you could think about as society, but it's the a priori axiomatic interpretive structure. You have that. Then you have chaotic potential. That's the tohu vabohu that exists at the beginning of time. And so the way God is represented in the story of Genesis is that, so God is the a priori interpretive process that gives rise to order as a consequence of manipulating potential.